Hi, my name is Miranda Paley. I'm a graduate student in the lab of Dr. Jennifer Prescher at the University of California, Irvine. Today, UC Irvine is hosting the JOC Editors Symposium. I got a chance to sit down with some of the editors and talk about the best advice they ever received as graduate students. What's the best piece of advice you got either as a graduate student or early in your career?
I think the best piece of advice that I received, and what I really remember early in my career, was from my own PhD advisor, Orville Chapman, who really emphasized the importance of writing, scientific writing, communication, not in terms of publications per se, but writing style, communicating clearly and effectively, and that serves anyone in science very well in terms of having their work be understood and appreciated, which is important both for publications but also in the writing that you would do, writing grant proposals and the like.
I think the single most influential piece I was given was when I was interviewing for a job on the West Coast. I was asked by a person, he said, I got two questions for you. One is, what's the most important unsolved problem in organic chemistry? And I had been a genetics major as an undergrad, so that was an easy question. So I pulled some bio thing out and made it sound really great and global. And then he said, okay, that's great. My second question is, why aren't you working on it? And I was actually flattened by that. And I stood there sort of speechless, which to those who know me know that's rare. And I said, you know, I hadn't thought of it that way. And the answer was baloney, but I hadn't thought of it that way. And so I actually came home and said, what should I be doing? And so the advice I now give to my students is when you go postdoc, do a postdoc in a different area. My better students have all done that. I've had kids study molecular biology who could barely draw the amino acids when they started. They're now famous molecular biologists and femtosecond spectroscopists and inorganic chemists and all sorts of things, NASA astrochemists. It's all because they actually chose a postdoc as a real do-over, not just as a way to prove their current worth.
I had written a manuscript to be presented as a communication in JCS and gave it to my PhD advisor, who was Saul Winstein. And he took the manuscript home that night, and the next morning he presented me with a completely rewritten manuscript. And the important thing about this is he just didn't give me the manuscript. I went into his office and spent maybe 2 hours. And among the things that he talked about was, first of all, he knew I was going into an academic job. He said, you really need to get your best stuff out first and focus on that. Also, when you're writing your manuscripts, you really have several chances to get people interested in reading what you've written. And it's, you know, if you don't have people read what you've written, then it's not going to help you very much. The title is important, and now, of course, the graphic that goes in the table of contents is important. The abstract is important, the introduction is important, and if you can get people that far into your manuscript and they're still interested, they're going to read it.
We live in a world where there are many things going on, in part many scientifically, but we also reach outside the box and we do other things in our own life. And so the issue of going through life multitasking is a requirement that I think we all have to do, and the sooner you become aware of what the issues are, the better off you're going to be as a scientist, learning how to deal with all of these other juggling issues. Of course, as a graduate student, your amount of time that you have available for any one of them is not quite the same as somebody who, like myself, is in an emeritus mode. So do what you can, learn to juggle, and enjoy.
Probably the best advice came from John Osborne, an organometallic chemist who was in the lab next door to us. And John told me one day, as we were talking about future jobs, how to launch a career, he said, always work on important problems. And I think that is something that I just always held in the back of my mind. Do you want to choose a project because it's doable? You can do it, but really would anybody care if you can do it? It's more important to tackle a big problem. Hopefully one that's doable, though.
what are some lessons learned maybe that you didn't expect, that you weren't warned about, that you could impart on the future generation of chemistry?
Well, I would say the single thing that I very clearly remember from starting as a young faculty member were I knew that I would work hard on my research. What I didn't appreciate ahead of time was all the different demands on my time, even right at the beginning of the career. Teaching, meeting, visiting seminar speakers, recruiting graduate students, being asked to be on all sorts of committees and whatnot. It's time management is something that all of us struggle with, but I guess I would say to young people in science, be ready for it. It will present challenges for anybody to manage their time, be effective, not say yes to too many obligations. I mean, it's okay to say no sometimes, and maybe that's a good message. It's okay to say no.
Everyone just really has to focus on being the best scientist they can be, being the best colleague and collaborator they can be. And I don't think that's now any harder for women than for other people. It's a matter of tuning your own ambitions to make sure that you're headed in a direction that is rewarding for you, rewarding for your colleagues.
Find your passion in life. I mean, I think that often when it comes to making a decision as to which career path or which door to open, it's confusing. Sometimes you have lots of options, complications. Sometimes there's only one option, only one door opens. But whichever path you travel, I mean, I think there has to be some real enthusiasm on the part of the individual. There has to be a passion for doing what they want to do, and if that is lacking, then I would say maybe it's time to reevaluate where you're going in life. So we all run into these problems as we course through life, and that sort of comes along with the issue of balance and multitasking and juggling, just a passion.
That's it from the JOC Editors Symposium. I got a lot of great advice. I hope you did too. Thanks so much for watching.